So, welcome, friends. So wonderful to be invited into each of your unique cyberspaces. I love looking into everyone's houses. It seems, we have a lot in common, mostly books, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, feel free to just type in the chat what region that you're from, and please mute yourself. As we, warm up our space here, we're gonna unify and we're gonna sanctify.
Sorry, Hazel, I muted you. Unmute.
All right.
I was trying to go catch somebody else.
Good. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna light a candle. How about that? I'm gonna light this candle and let it be like a week of. Well, see, look, I have a fan on, so I don't know if it's gonna happen, but I'm gonna think of it as a welcoming beacon. So let's welcome the fires in. See if it'll stay. There you go. Sometimes you got to work at that fire. Yeah, it needs all the elements to shine. And I want to officially let this welcoming beacon to shine out and say, yeah, we're here for this Whitsun Festival of united soul endeavor and spirit community with the Eastern, Central, and Western Regional Councils of the ASA. So we really thought it was important to continue the energy of the Sophia Rising Convergence by acknowledging this last phase of the threefold festival associated with the dove that enkindles the individual and strengthens the community. And I don't know if you can feel it, but there is an aura. We're in an aura of the Jubilee right now, the 100-year anniversary of the refounding of the Anthroposophical Society. So I think it's perfect. It's the perfect opportunity to bring all the regions together. So before I give a little introduction, I thought it would be great to start by inviting the members of the various regional councils to introduce themselves. I'm sure you probably all know everybody, but it's always a good way to start. So I'll begin. I'm Hazel Archer-Ginsberg, and I'm on the General Council representing the Central Region. And I'll turn it over to Lisa.
Hi, I'm Lisa Dalton, and I'm on the Central Regional Council, and I will turn it over to Mary.
Mary Mertz in the Central Region. I'm in Kansas. And Christine.
I'm Christine Burke. I'm in the Western Regional Council. I'm also on the General Council. I'm the representative to the General Council.
And I am Sandra in Sacramento. I'm on the Western Regional Council.
My name is Gino Vreca. I'm on the Eastern Regional Council, and I'm also on the General Council, and I'm in Chestnut Ridge, New York.
And I'm Kathy Green. I'm with the Eastern Regional Council.
David Manser, the Eastern Regional Council in Amesbury, Massachusetts. I'm also on the General Council, and I'm the treasurer of the Anthroposophical Society in America.
Beautiful. Yeah, I see some former members of the Central Region out there. Marianne, Louise, and hello. Yeah, beautiful. Did we miss anybody? Oh, Mickey.
Yeah, Mickey Leach. I'm on the Western Regional Council. I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Beautiful. Thank you.
You want to join me?
So, I always think of Whitsun as a festival of right livelihood. And to meet this festival in the new mysteries that our personal inner development builds within the temple of the heart, highlights one of the greatest challenges of being human: honing our individual gifts, our individual I, and then placing these gifts in right relationship within the social realm. This is the definition of morality, I think, right? To be in right relationship. So our groups striving to know spiritual science have the possibility to create a new kind of moral culture, enhanced by weaving our gifts together. So, back in 1907, Rudolf Steiner created the Whitsun Congress in Munich as a completely new impulse. And this Whitsun spirit came alive again through Rudolf Steiner for the third time in history with the refounding of the Anthroposophical Society at the Christmas conference. And we are called now, 100 years later, to continue to co-create this vessel, this chalice for Anthroposophia, the grail held aloft by Michael in this present age of the consciousness soul. And then maybe we could picture this, the spirit flame can then spread out to become what Steiner called a world Whitsun. So through Rudolf Steiner's profound mystery deed at the Christmas conference, an altogether new relationship between the spiritual world and the human being was conceived. So, dear friends, if today, together, we will to turn our hearts toward a higher wisdom in love, to enkindle forces of knowledge in our souls, redeeming our intelligence, the being of anthroposophy can anchor and embody itself in the environment.
Question and answer type stuff.
So, yeah, we have our work cut out for us, don't we? Okay, well, that's my little introduction. We're going to get to work. Next up, we have Gino from the Eastern region. He's going to bring us our official opening verse and then lead us in some eurythmy. And then the readers will share the second lecture from the Fifth Gospel by Rudolf Steiner. And you're welcome to follow that link on the archive and read along with us. And it's really, it's amazing. Steiner gives us this glimpse into the Akashic record during the time of the original Pentecost. So we'll get to be part of that. And then Lisa will facilitate a breakout session, and we'll have a chance to really think about what that means for our lives today. And then we'll have a large group harvest, a little more eurythmy, and our closing verse. So thank you for being here. Here we go.
Hello, everyone. I'll open up with the Whitsun Mood by Rudolf Steiner. Being aligns with being in widths of space. Being follows being in rounds of time. When you, O human being, remain in widths of space, in rounds of time, then you are in realms that fade and pass away. Yet mightily your soul rises above them when you divine or knowingly behold the eternal beyond the widths of space, beyond the rounds of time. So we all can join in and stand up. And we're gonna work with the sounds of the word spirit, the consonants of the word spirit. And I'll provide some pictures that will get us into the mood of Whitsun. So we'll start with the S. So with the S, we can think of the zodiacal region of the scorpion. And we know that in the future, the scorpion will be transformed into the eagle. So instead of doing the S down, we'll do the S up, overcoming the sensual and reaching for the spirit. Then for the letter P, you can imagine the Virgin, the region of the Virgin, and the spirits of wisdom standing behind you. And you can imagine from Sophia Rising, you saw probably all that picture of a huge aura around the Virgin. So when you lift up your arms, you go through the whole aura, and then rays of wisdom radiate and form your spirit body. Now the letter R is from the region of the bull and has to do with the Holy Spirit. And interesting with that, the bull is the whole digestive system, which Steiner says in the astral world changes into a bird. So we can think of the dove descending from the region of the Holy Spirit in the region of the bull when we do the letter R. And we'll take the R and swirl it around ourselves and come into the gesture of the bull. And then the letter T stands behind the region of Leo. And there we have the spirits of the will, the sacrifice, but enthusiasm, and also what's at the root of courage. So in courageous enthusiasm, we can radiate out the region of the Leo and then take it all in and bring it into the human being. So that's the picture. And now we're going to try to do these 4 sounds all together. S, P, R, O. Enthusiasm. So, beautiful. Let's do it one more time. S. R. Very beautiful. We'll do it again at the end.
Thank you, Gino. Perfect way to start. So I hope some friends went online or they have the book at home of the 5th Gospel, the 2nd lecture. So we're gonna work with that a little bit now. So join along in the reading or just sit back and enjoy this amazing story and think about, you know, how we can live into this picture today. You ready, Mary?
Yes, sorry, I was just getting something ready. Our considerations will begin with the so-called Pentecost event. For this event presents itself as a kind of awakening of the disciples.
You're muted, Lisa.
The disciples felt they had lived for a long time in an unusual state of consciousness. It was really like a kind of awakening from a strange, dream-filled sleep in which one carries out the everyday tasks of life as reasonable people do, so that others do not notice that one is in a different state of consciousness.
They awoke with the Pentecost event, and they experienced this awakening in an extraordinary way. They really felt as though something we can only call the substance of all-encompassing love had descended on them from out of the universe.
The apostles felt impregnated by all-encompassing love, awakening them from the dream-like state.
As though they had been awakened by all that warms the universe, as though this source of the power of love had penetrated the soul from each one of them.
They seemed very strange to the others who heard how they talked. Those others knew they had previously led very simple lives, that they had been acting differently in the previous years, as though lost in dreams.
Now, however, they were transformed, like people who had achieved a new state of mind or soul disposition, like people who had lost all the narrow restrictions, all the egotism of life, who had gained an infinitely wide heart and all-embracing tolerance, a deeply heartfelt understanding of all that is human on earth.
They could also express themselves so that everyone present could understand them. One felt also that they could see into each heart and soul and clarify the secrets of that soul, so they could comfort the other, could tell them exactly what they needed.
It was, of course, astonishing that such a transformation could happen to a number of people. But those people who experienced the transformation, who had been awakened by the cosmic spirit of love, those people felt in themselves a new understanding for what had acted in common in their souls, but which they had until then not understood.
Now, in that instant, understanding of what actually happened on Golgotha appeared before their mind's eye.
And if we look into the soul of one of those apostles, the one usually called Peter in the other Gospels, clairvoyant observation sees his normal consciousness as having been completely obliterated from the moment the Gospels usually call the denial.
He now looked back to the denial scene when he was asked if he had a connection to the Galileans, and he knew now that he denied it because at that time his consciousness had begun to fade and an abnormal state took its place, a kind of dream state, which meant removal into a completely different world.
For him, it was like a person who, upon waking in the morning, remembers the last events before going to sleep the night before. That's how Peter remembered what is called the denial, the triple denial before the cock crowed twice.
And then the immediate intermediate state of Peter's consciousness unfurled. It wasn't filled with mere dream images, but with images presented by a kind of higher state of consciousness, which presented an experience of purely spiritual matters.
And everything that happened that Peter had slept through since that time appeared before his soul as a clairvoyant dream.
Above all, he learned to see the event about which one can truly say he slept through, because for a full understanding of that event, the fecundation by all-encompassing love was necessary.
Now the images of the mystery of Golgotha appeared before his eyes in a way similar to how we can recall them with clairvoyant vision if we establish the necessary conditions.
One can only bring oneself to speak of these things with a holy awe, with awareness that one is treading on the holy ground of human reverence when expressing what is revealed to the soul's vision.
However, it seems necessary, due to certain spiritual considerations, to speak of these things in our times, with full knowledge that other times will come, in which these things will meet with more understanding than is the case now.
For in order to understand much of what will be said at this opportunity, the human soul must free itself of quite a few things which are necessary to it during this cultural period.
First of all, something which is offensive to contemporary natural scientific consciousness appears to clairvoyant vision.
The clairvoyant glance first falls on an image that depicts a reality which is also indicated in other gospels, but which presents a very special view when looking back in time.
Observation is drawn to a kind of darkening of the earth, and one feels as in an imagination the meaningful moment when for hours the physical sun is darkened over the land of Palestine, over the site of Golgotha, like an eclipse of the sun.
One has the impression that spiritually, scientifically trained observation can now verify if a physical eclipse of the sun really occurred over that land. That for this observation, the whole human environment takes on a completely different aspect.
Put aside what human technology has to say about a solar eclipse. A strong mind and the conviction that all had to happen as it did are necessary in order to withstand the demonic powers which arise during a solar eclipse.
One sees plants and animals differently. Every butterfly looks different. It is something which, in the deepest sense, can bring forth the conviction of how, in the cosmos, a certain spiritual life, which belongs to the sun, and what one sees in the sun also as its physical life, is connected to life on the earth.
And how when the physical glow is drastically darkened by the covering moon, it is different from when the sun simply doesn't glow during the night. The appearance of the earth around us is quite different during a solar eclipse than when it is night. One feels the group souls of the plants and animals arise during a solar eclipse. One feels a dimming of the corporality of plants and animals, and a brightening of their group souls.
This experience is especially strong when directed towards the moment in earthly evolution, which we call the mystery of Golgotha. And then one learns what this notable natural phenomenon means.
When one opens a book and reads the text, one has the impression that what one should read comes forth from the letters. Thus also from the cosmic letters comes forth the necessity of reading something which humanity should learn. It appears as a word written in the cosmos, as a cosmic phonetic symbol.
And what does one read when opening the soul to it?
During Greek times, humanity had developed to the point in which, through Plato and Aristotle, it rose to a very high level of learning, of intellectuality. In many respects, the knowledge achieved by Plato and Aristotle could not be superseded in later times, for the summit of human intellectuality had already been reached.
And when we consider that this intellectual knowledge was made extremely popular in the Greek and Italian peninsulas by wandering preachers during the time of the mystery of Golgotha, when we consider how this knowledge was spread in a way which we cannot understand, then one has the possibility of an impression of reading the letters of the occult cosmic text.
When one has attained to clairvoyant consciousness, we can say, everything which humanity had gathered as knowledge in pre-Christian times comes under the sign of the moon, which from the viewpoint of the earth travels through space. And it is the moon because the moon because for higher human perception, this knowledge had not enlightened, had not solved riddles, but for higher perception was darkening, as the moon darkens the sun during an eclipse. That is what one reads.
So at that time, knowledge was not enlightening, but acted as a darkening of the riddle of the world.
And this external event is an expression of humanity having achieved a stage in which self-creative knowledge was placed in front of higher knowledge, as the moon stands before the sun during an eclipse.
In that solar eclipse, one feels humanity's darkening of the sun within the Earth's evolution, written in an awesome sign of the cosmic occult text.
I said earlier that contemporary consciousness can consider this offensive because it has no understanding of the spiritual power in the universe.
I do not wish to speak of miracles in the usual sense of the breaking of natural laws, but I can do no other than inform you how one can read that solar eclipse, how one can do no other than position one's soul before that solar eclipse as though reading what that natural event signifies. With moon knowledge, an eclipse of the higher solar message occurred.
And then one's consciousness perceives the raised cross on Golgotha, on which the body of Jesus hangs between the two thieves. Then the removal from the cross and the burial appears. And I might add that the more one tries to avoid this image, the stronger it appears.
Now a second powerful sign appears, which must be read in order to understand it as a symbol of what has happened in the evolution of humanity. One follows the image of Jesus taken down from the cross and laid in the tomb, and one is thoroughly shaken by the earthquake which went through the area.
Perhaps the relation between that solar eclipse and the earthquake will someday be better understood scientifically, for certain teachings which are prevalent today, but incoherent, indicate a relation between solar eclipse and earthquakes, and even fire damps in the mines.
That earthquake was a consequence of the solar eclipse. That earthquake shook the tomb in which Jesus' body lay. And the stone which had been placed before the tomb was ripped away, and a crevice opened in the ground, and the body fell onto the crevice.
Further vibrations caused the ground to close over the crevice. And when the people came in the morning, the tomb was empty, for the earth had received Jesus' body. The stone, however, remained apart from the tomb.
Let us follow the sequence of images. Jesus dies on the cross. Darkness suddenly covers the earth. Jesus' body is laid in the tomb. An earthquake opens the earth's crust, and Jesus' body is received by the earth. The crevice caused by the quake closes. The stone is thrown aside. These are all factual events.
And if someone wishes to say that such things cannot happen, that a symbol is placed in the cosmos as a powerful sign language to indicate that something new has occurred in human evolution, when someone wishes to say that the divine powers do not write about what happens on the earth with such sign language as a solar eclipse and an earthquake, I can only reply, all respect to your belief that it cannot be so. But it happened anyway.
We can only approach these events if we first examine Peter's or one of the other apostles' souls, who felt themselves enriched by all-encompassing cosmic love.
Only if we look into their souls and see how they experience things do we find, via this detour, the ability to observe the raised cross on Golgotha, the darkening of the earth, and the earthquake which followed it.
From the many images which crossed through Peter's consciousness, the following were emphasized: the cross raised on Golgotha, the eclipse, and the quake. Those were for Peter the first fruits of the enlightenment by all-encompassing love at the Pentecost event.
And now he knew something which he had not previously known, that the event of Golgotha really took place, and that the body which hung on the cross was the same body with which he had often wandered in life.
Now he knew that Jesus died on the cross, that this death was really a birth, the birth of that spirit who, as all-encompassing love, exuded in the souls of the apostles gathered at Pentecost.
Peter sensed it as a ray of the infinite aeonic love. He sensed it as what was born as Jesus died on the cross. This awesome truth penetrated Peter's soul. A death only seemed to have taken place on the cross.
In reality, that death, preceded by infinite suffering, was the birth of what entered his soul like a ray. With the death of Jesus, something entered the earth which had previously existed only externally, all-encompassing cosmic love.
In that instant that Jesus of Nazareth died on the cross at Golgotha, something had been born to the earth which previously only existed in the cosmos. The death of Jesus of Nazareth was the birth of cosmic love within the earth sphere.
That is the first insight which we can gather from what we call the fifth gospel, with what is called in the New Testament the arrival, the pouring out of the Spirit begins with what I have now described.
The apostles, due to their soul constitution, were not able to accompany the death of Jesus of Nazareth, except with an anomalous consciousness.
Peter, also John and James, recollected still another moment in his life, which can only be revealed to us in all its grandeur through the fifth gospel.
He with whom they wandered led them to the mount and said, "Stand guard," and they fell asleep. Their souls were already being gradually overtaken by the sleeping state. Their normal consciousness sank into a sleep which lasted through the event of Golgotha.
And Peter, John, and James had to recall how they fell into that state and how now, as they looked back, the great events dawned on them, which had to do with the physical body of him with whom they had wandered.
And gradually, as dreams emerge in human consciousness, the previous days emerged in the apostles' consciousness.
What emerged was the whole time which they had experienced from the mystery of Golgotha to Pentecost, which had remained hidden in their subconscious.
Especially the 10 days between the so-called ascension until the Pentecost event seemed to be a period of deep sleep.
Looking back, however, the time between the mystery of Golgotha and the ascension of Christ Jesus emerged day by day. They had experienced it, but it only emerged now and in a remarkable way.
They saw themselves wandering after the mystery of Golgotha with him whom we call the Christ. And they saw how he had really taught them about the kingdom of the Spirit. And they were able to understand how they had wandered with the being who was born on the cross. How this being, the all-encompassing love born from the cosmos, was their teacher.
They saw how they were not mature enough to understand what this being had to say, how they had to receive it with the subconscious powers of their souls, and couldn't receive what this being had to give with normal reason, how they went like sleepwalkers alongside Christ during those 40 days and couldn't understand with normal reason what he had to give them.
He appeared to them as their spiritual teacher and instructed them in secrets which they could only understand when he transferred them to a completely different consciousness.
And now they realized that they had been with the Christ, had walked with the resurrected Christ. Now they realized what had happened to him.
Let us imagine that such an image appeared before the soul of one of the apostles after Pentecost. He saw that he had walked with the resurrected one, but he didn't recognize him. He saw a heavenly spiritual being, but he did not recognize him.
And in order to recognize him, this image was transformed into the image of the Last Supper, which they had experienced together with Christ Jesus.
Just imagine that the apostle had before him the supersensible experience of the resurrected one, and as though hovering in the background, the image of the Last Supper.
Then they recognized that the one with whom they had wandered with love was the same as the one who now taught them in a completely different form, which he had taken on after the mystery of Golgotha.
It was a flowing together of the memories from the sleeping consciousness with the memories which preceded it.
And they thought, before we were awakened through the ripening by all-encompassing love, our normal consciousness was taken away.
And Christ, the resurrected one, was with us. He had taken us into his kingdom without our knowing it. He wandered with us and revealed to us the secrets of his kingdom, which now, after the Pentecost mystery, emerge as having been experienced in a dream.
I feel myself obliged to speak of these things now. What I would like to say, though, is the following. I know very well that we live in a time in which much is being prepared for the earthly future of humanity, and that we, within our now Anthroposophical society, should realize that something must be prepared for the future in human souls.
A near future will come in which more will be precisely perceived in the spiritual script of becoming. Such times will come.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes our lecture. And what we have next is the opportunity to go into breakout rooms. And in these breakout rooms, which I have set up, we will have 3 or 4 people, and we will consider a question that might be something like, how do these pictures from the Akashic records live in us today? I'll repeat that. How do these pictures, these images that the apostles experienced, how do these pictures live in us today? So we're going to have about 10 minutes for our breakout rooms. And, let's just go ahead and go into them, and we'll go from there. Hazel has posted an invitation, which you can select. Welcome back, everyone. Oh, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's great to have you all back. We are going to open up and take a few minutes to just hear any thoughts. If someone wants to share what came up in your breakout room. We're coming back. Everybody's joining us. Wonderful. And you have 2 ways of doing that. Down on the bottom panel, you can go to your reactions button, and there at the base of that should be one that says raise hand. I'm clicking on it now. And then when you're done, you can lower that hand, as I just did. So that's one way to do it. Another way is to sort of wave frantically, and somebody will point it out to me. I can't necessarily see all of you. And if all else fails, you just pop on your mic and say, hey, and we'll find a slot for you. So who would like to share a thought? Something you discovered or would like to bring forward? Christine.
I'll start us off.
Oh.
One of the people in my breakout room really spoke about this beautiful image and experience that the apostles were having about, this fusion of what they had experienced in material and what they had experienced in the spiritual, and the recognition that we all have this beautiful gift of cosmic love that's in each of us, and that now we just need to understand it. And for me, this picture is just, it's such a picture of Whitsun in recognizing that we have, all of us, and not just all of us on the call, right? Not just all of us in anthroposophy, but everyone has this cosmic love, and we just are in different parts struggling to understand it in the way that we can come together with that.
Great. Thank you, Christine. Anyone else want to share a thought, either in response to Christine's observation or bringing your own, or from your group, reporting from your group? Kendall. Go ahead and unmute Kendall. And then Mary will go next.
There we go. Yeah, no, what was really beautiful for me was meeting with 4 people in a room that doesn't exist, but is present. And there was such a comfort of love. And that was the fact of the matter. It happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall. Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, to meet with 4 people from around the country and share this moment is really cool. Thank you. Yeah. Mary.
To piggyback a little bit on what Christine shared, in our room, I asked a question I'd been carrying for a long time, which is, why don't we get the Holy Spirit like the apostles did in a big whoosh, and then, whoa, we have this all-encompassing love, and there we are, we're so charged up? No, that's not how I experienced it anyway. And one of my wonderful colleagues in the breakout room shared, well, for us, it's this process of becoming, of unpacking it gradually. And that helped me a lot. So I will chew on that happily.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mary. Who else would like to share something you discovered or thought of, or just whether or not you enjoyed the breakout room? Did you find it useful? Dave. Yes.
Hi, I've lost my mouse, so I was in a breakout room of 2 people with Steve in Australia, which is this idea of the joining together in the room that doesn't exist. And of course, he's going into winter, which was really interesting. But just kind of synthesizing part of the conversation, this idea of the old intellectual wisdom being of the moon and blocking the sun. And we discussed what a marvelous tool the intellect is, and yet when left to its own devices, it can always find a way to death forces. Whereas this light of the spirit, this cosmic love, doesn't. Right? It's a life force always. Yeah, I wanted to share that and just share the experience of meeting someone from Australia here in the breakout room. So.
Absolutely thrilling. Wonderful. Thank you, Dave. Who else would like to share a thought or response? a discovery, or an inquiry? One of the questions, oh, good. Brian's here. Brian, take it away.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
In our breakout room, we had a lovely conversation, in particular, experiencing the seasons and experiencing the change and the various ports. My compatriot was actually in Maine, and I'm in California, but we both of us are experiencing spring as this kind of resurrection of the all renewing forces again of cosmic love. But we also spoke about the interactions. We experience it actually in the experience of the other human being. The more we can awaken to the presence of love within us, and we begin to recognize that same love emanating through and with the other human being. In a certain sense, this all-prevailing love is really the spirit in which we live. And the fact that the Christ brought the spirit of all-prevailing love to the earth and to each human being, if we will only awaken to it. Of course, we're given the choice to do that or not. We spoke about the struggles that humanity is having, accepting. And we remembered the fact that Rudolf Steiner, every day, his spiritual practice included speaking the Lord's Prayer. He would stand up upright and speak the Lord's Prayer loud enough to be heard in the other room. And his particular translation of the Lord's Prayer, the portion that we're familiar with that goes, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. His translation of that was, let our compassion for others compensate for the sins committed against ourselves. Let our compassion for others compensate for the sins committed against us. And if we begin to realize this, if we have something to offer those who are attacking or those who are angry or upset or whatever, if we can offer compassion and understanding to that human being, we can overcome these tremendous difficulties of divisiveness that the adversaries keep throwing at us to test whether or not we are actually going to awaken to that cosmic love or not. But anyway, these were some of the thoughts that we shared, and it's lovely to see you all. And I have to say, I'm thrilled. The fifth gospel was the first content that I read by Rudolf Steiner, and it remains to me one of the highest expressions of his recognition of the Christ. And I'm grateful that there's a group of human beings carrying the same impulse. Bless all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Who else has a thought they'd like to share? Helen.
I'm not usually shy. I feel a little shy. I want to say how wonderful what you just said, Brian. Thank you. And I want to say in our group of three, we have this question, like, what was it really like from Ascension to Whitsun? And I felt there must have been confusion. And my friend Mickey said, which I thought was so wonderful. She said, well, I think it's really not a state of confusion. It's a certain state of being abandoned, like when you're very young and you lose the time of having your secret friends, your imaginary friends. And then later on in life, you remember that, perhaps, like this remembering that they had. And that all just made so much sense to me. So I was very grateful for my two friends in our group.
Thank you. Kathy.
Hi, yeah, we had a very enlightened breakout room for us, and I was sort of on the same path as Helena, where, you know, what was it, the experience that was going on, and I was always led to believe that they were a lot more conscious during this period when Christ was with them after Golgotha, after the resurrection. And now we're kind of realizing that they were in sort of another state of consciousness, which they were most likely, many times when he was speaking to them, they were probably in another state of consciousness. But and one of our members, expressed that the feeling of devastation that they must have had felt after everything had been, just falling apart and the body had disappeared, and how that they were really relying on this cosmic love to pull them through. And I kind of come back to the fact that, many times in the readings and understanding this material, that you work on it and you work on it and you chew on it, and it does happen to come to you at unexpected times when you get those aha moments of, oh, that's what that meant, and oh, that's how it's relevant in our life today. And how beautifully put it was that, he sort of explains that they weren't really there, and it was this, they were waking up. And I feel that so many times when I'm in study groups and when we're discussing this material, and it's just a wonderful revelation and all encompassing, that we all get to participate in that cosmic love.
Thank you, Kathy. Yeah, I got this image of us, of the question, what images are living around us that have a hidden image behind it, like that image of the Last Supper, where we can, if we are aware that a spiritual image may be coming when we look at something, and we may have some antipathy toward it, what is the image behind it that might help us understand its context and find the cosmic love within it? Yeah. A lot of times in 2020, in 2020 hindsight, we look back and say, oh, that turned out to be a good thing, because we can then see what the image was behind it, that when it was being experienced, we could only see the eclipse or feel the crevice, the earthquake of it. Victoria, I think you might have had your hand up for a moment. Are you still here? Did you want to say something? Sure. Anyone else? Well, I've really enjoyed this discussion. It's been very, very enlightening. Hazel, shall we take the next step?
Yes, thank you. I think a little eurythmy is in order, don't you? What do you guys think? Feel like embodying spirit right now with Gino?
Yes. So now we have a new picture of spirit, this all-encompassing love. So now with the letter S, we want to transmute the lower sensual love into a spiritual love. And we can see John the Baptist and Christian Rosenkreuz standing behind us as the representatives of this region of the ego. So you can do the S to the heights. And then for Virgo or Sophia or Anthroposophical, which wants to the nature of love as the impetus to true giving, which is in essence or how our spirit man is being fashioned. So we take the pa and fashion our spirit man body. And then for the R, the region of the bull is also John the Baptist. And we can imagine a purified chalice in the region of the larynx, where in the future we'll be able to speak morally, speak love into our social environments. So we want to take the R and come into the gesture of the bull. And then we reach out to the region of Leo. Enthusiasm and courage and sacrifice and warmth, and bring it all into our spirit body. So now we do all 4 gestures in a sequence. One more time. And one more time to fully imprint it. Beautiful. From the people I could see, all look very beautiful.
Wonderful. Boy, that was really special. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dino.
You're welcome.
Well, we have a couple minutes. Do we want to just close, or do we, anybody else have any other things that they want to say before we bring Christine Burke in to give us the closing verse? Nicholas?
Hello, Hazel. I have a poem, very short.
Please share.
Her true name. It was an infinitesimal moment that it happened. I was sitting on a moss-covered log by the river, listening to a cacophony of voices rising from the water as it splashed over stones with unusual enthusiasm. As it splashed, that often comes with spring, longer days in life, teeming with enthusiasm, drawing me in. My body, my heartbeat, my mind became one with the river, and I heard her true name. Amma, Maria, Magdalene, of the waters, of the earth, air, fire, and ether. When I returned to the river, I was still there, singing her joyful song. Why is time needed now that I know? Nervous.
Beautiful, Nicholas. Wonderful. Really wonderful. Thank you so much. Anyone else have anything? It was so beautiful. Thank you. Oh, shall we go to Christine, Hazel? Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you. I was working on a number of different verses and decided after our the beautiful sharing to bring this one. Thank you, Nicholas, for that beautiful poem. I always enjoy hearing your poems. This is a verse by Rudolf Steiner. We come here to embrace what is common in each one of us. Our love for a higher knowledge which unites us in understanding. Let this light of knowledge unite each and all of us, making rise in each the raising of the other.
Perfect. Blessings. Yeah, it's a nice short one. Why don't you read it again? It's beautiful.
We come here to embrace what is common in each one of us. Our love for higher knowledge which unites us in understanding. Let this light of knowledge unite each and all of us, making rise in each the raising of the other.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, you know, it really feels important that we all come together like this. We've been talking for a while about, you know, each one of us in these regions, we're doing our different things. We have different purposes. There's different spirits of place that are working with us in different ways. And it's really wonderful to just check in and do something common like this. I think it is important. And I hope that we can do more things like this in the future, especially during this time when we're really moving into this Jubilee, this 100-year anniversary. So I look forward to seeing more and more of us coming together in this way. So thank you. Until next time.
Bye, friends.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Hazel, for putting this together.
Yes, thank you, Hazel.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank
you so much.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Please reach out to your regional reps and get involved. They'd love to work with you.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thanks, everybody.
Fine. Thank you.
Blessings. We got a whole week to work with this energy too, right? Because
Yep.
Whitson isn't until next week,
Thank you.
June
Oh.
5th. Everyone. Peace.
Well, that was wonderful, Juno.